Hi and welcome to my channel. My name is Mirna Gabriel. I'm an indie author and a lover of all classic books. In this video I'm going to talk about this book, The Three Musketeers by Alexandre Dumas. This is the first book in a 6-book series. The first book is 700 pages, so it's a bit long. I'm going to try and break it down here in this video and I hope you find it useful. This story was first published in 1844 in a French newspaper in a serial form. The genre of this book is historical fiction and more specifically swashbuckling adventure, which is about heroes engaging in daring and romantic adventures, and sword dueling is a recurring motif. It sets in 1625 France during the regime of King Louis XIII and the ministry of Cardinal Richelieu. Because it was first published as a series, the book reads like the episodes from a TV show. It has so much more than the main events, so many intertwined incidents that eventually connects at the end of the story. I'm not going to tell you the whole story like always. I'm going to start with the beginning of the story and the premise. As we know, we're in 17th century Paris and the story starts with D'Artagnan. He's an 18-year-old kid who leaves his parents in Gascony and travels to Paris to join the King's Musketeers. The Musketeers are a military branch of the royal household of France. They are mainly the king's bodyguards and an elite section of the French army. D'Artagnan goes to Paris on a yellow pony-like horse with little money in his pocket and a letter of introduction from his father addressed to Monsieur de Treville, the commander of the Musketeers.
In the name of God, what kind of beast is that? And the beast he's riding doesn't look much either.
Ostler? Please see that my horse is watered and fed.
Oh, it's a horse, is it? My friends here thought it was a cow.
Excuse me. See, I know you men are just kidding around. Afraid I must ask you to apologize.
Well, I'm afraid I'm not in the habit of apologizing to Gascon yokels.
Not to me. To my horse.
And if I don't?
I shall have to kill you.
Once in Paris, D'Artagnan gets into trouble. He gets beaten up by this gentleman's servants, he sells his horse, and he loses his letter of introduction. He goes to Monsieur de Treville's reception, which is a building with a court that serves as a hotel and a camp where the Musketeers train. He goes there to meet the captain of the Musketeers, feeling less than confident, especially without his letter of introduction. D'Artagnan is not accepted to enroll with the Musketeers for lack of experience, and Treville kindly sends him to join an academy for young gentlemen who wish to be recruited, where he must first prove himself. At the Musketeers camp, D'Artagnan meets all three Musketeers, Athos, Porthos, and Aramis, and he accidentally manages to get on their nerves, and that secures him 3 duels the next day with each of our 3 famous Musketeers, who are known in Paris as the Inseparables. Of course, D'Artagnan, who is very confident in his skills as a swordsman, doesn't wish to start his career in Paris by killing a Musketeer, whom he highly admires and wishes to be one of them. So he goes to the duels determined to show his goodwill, and the 3 Musketeers admired D'Artagnan's politeness and his ability to keep a secret. As they were about to duel in light of that mutual respect, 5 of the Cardinal's guards appear, demanding that the Musketeers must put an end to this illegal dueling or be arrested. The Cardinal's similarly elite company of guards, known as the Red Guards, were the Musketeers' rivals. Consequently, they wouldn't take orders from them, and so they challenged them to a sword fight, and our young D'Artagnan fights alongside the 3 Musketeers. And even though they were outnumbered, D'Artagnan and the 3 Musketeers win the fight, and that's how D'Artagnan becomes friends with the Inseparables. Soon D'Artagnan meets and starts an affair with Madame Bonacieux, who is one of the Queen's ladies-in-waiting. And because of D'Artagnan's love for her, he and his friends get entangled in this palace intrigue started by the Cardinal, who eventually plans to accuse the Queen of high treason.
You want me to go to England, retrieve the diamonds, then return to Paris with every soldier, assassin, mercenary, bounty hunter, on both sides of the channel to stop me from doing so. Did I miss anything?
Well, in 5 days.
Why in the world would I do that? Diamonds, Buckingham, Tower of London, 5 days, Queen's reputation, and the fate of France as we know it. Who's with me?
D'Artagnan and the three Musketeers travel to London to retrieve this gift that the Queen has given to Lord Buckingham, before the Cardinal could put his hands on it, hoping to save the Queen from being blackmailed by the Cardinal. The Cardinal sends a dangerous woman known as Milady de Winter to get a proof of said gift, but D'Artagnan and the three Musketeers beat her to it, accomplishing their mission and antagonizing this woman who is going to create a lot of troubles for them later.
It's quite easy for an employer to sever all ties with his operative, in the event that they are compromised, leaving them to rot in jail or on the gallows.
Your point being?
I require a guarantee that I shall not suffer a similar fate. An insurance policy, if you will.
It is by my order, and for the good of the state, that the bearer of this has done what has been done.
Satisfied?
Immensely.
The book is plot-driven, but this doesn't mean that we don't get to know the characters very well. The description of the characters are very telling of their different personalities. The visual description of the setting and the characters' interaction is very cinematic, but sometimes exaggerated. The point of view is third-person omniscient with a present narrator. Dumas uses humor in his narrative. You'll probably laugh once or twice as you read this book. We are very well acquainted with these characters from the various movie and TV adaptations, and in the book they are not any different. Athos, the brooding nobleman and the very skilled swordsman, Porthos, the not very smart giant who appreciates wealth and good living, and Aramis, the reluctant musketeer who wishes to join the convent. Even though the book is called The Three Musketeers, the three musketeers here are more like side characters, because our main character is D'Artagnan. We see most of the story through his point of view. D'Artagnan is a confident youth. He is an impoverished Gascon nobleman. We see the farm boy trope in his character. He is smart, brave, noble, ambitious, and is driven by love and acts of chivalry. D'Artagnan and the Three Musketeers may have the makings of the great classic heroes, but they are far from saints. They have grey morality. A lot of their actions are questionable. Even though most of what they are doing is for the greater good, as readers, we may not necessarily agree with the way they do it. She is the wife of Monsieur Bonacieux, who is employed by the Cardinal to spy on his wife. Madame Bonacieux is D'Artagnan's real love interest. She is brave and very loyal to her mistress, the Queen of France. She offers to help the Queen in her troubles with the Cardinal, knowing that whoever tries to befriend the Queen is in danger of being persecuted regardless of their social status. He is not a strong king. He is very much influenced by his advisors, especially by Cardinal Richelieu, making the Cardinal the most powerful man in France instead of himself.
Surely the king should be the most powerful piece.
The king is the most important piece, but he's vulnerable. He needs protection. May I suggest you castle him?
He is the king's most influential advisor. Politically, he is the best to lead the country. Since his power comes from his influence over the king, he is very keen not to share that influence with anyone, especially with the Queen, who had once rejected his advances on her, and he works hard to cause a rift between her and the king.
All Your Majesty has to do is throw a ball.
What? How would that help?
It would give Your Majesty the pretext to suggest to the Queen that she wear your gift.
Oh, Richelieu, that's very clever. So, if she has the diamonds...
Your Majesty can rest easy.
And if she doesn't?
She is Spanish by birth and an Austrian archduchess. Her loyalty is divided between her duties as the Queen of France and her brother, the King of Spain. She also has a growing affection for Duke Buckingham. She is not loved by King Louis, nor even trusted, largely due to the Cardinal's suspicion of her. She's not morally grey, she's just evil, from the moment she's introduced to the end of the novel. She's a mysterious and a dangerous woman who is the instrument of the Cardinal, and she's described as remarkably beautiful. At first, D'Artagnan, like all men, is obsessed with her, but once he knows her cunning ways and plans for revenge, she becomes his adversary. She's a woman with a dark secret, and she's prepared to kill anyone who dares to find out about that secret and try and out her. We see this quality of loyalty in D'Artagnan and the Three Musketeers, who are loyal to one another, to their country, and to their superiors. We also see it in Madame Bonacieux, who is so loyal to the Queen that she's prepared to die for her. In a stark contrast, we see many cases of infidelity, even in people who have shown loyalty in other situations, like Madame Bonacieux, who loves D'Artagnan despite being a married woman, D'Artagnan, who is infatuated by Milady despite his love for Constance. Porthos' mistress is also a married woman, who, being so much in love with Porthos, dotes on him with her husband's money. And of course, Milady de Winter, who as a young woman talks the priest out of his vows to help her flee a convent. Then she leaves her lover behind to be branded a thief, and then when they both escape, she meets Comte de la Fère and marries him, making him believe that the former priest was her brother. The bond of the Three Musketeers is very clear from the very start of the novel. They are dubbed the Inseparables because nothing can come between them. They work together, fight together, split the money, they look after each other, and after D'Artagnan joins the group, even before joining the ranks of the King's Musketeers, he becomes one of them, and a big part of his courage as a musketeer comes from his confidence in his friend's support. Much of the action is driven from the character's desire for vengeance. Milady seeks revenge on D'Artagnan for ruining her mission in London. D'Artagnan seeks revenge on Milady for kidnapping the woman he loves and for attempting to poison him. John Filton kills Duke Buckingham to avenge Milady for crimes she made him believe that the Duke has committed against her. And of course, Athos wants to avenge his pride that was wounded by Milady, his former wife. And this brings us to the theme of pride. We notice throughout the narrative that any form of insult, however trivial, can be perceived as a huge offense that entails men to draw swords on one another. We also see Athos refusing to admit his heartbreak because of his pride. D'Artagnan refuses to take money from Duke Buckingham because of his pride, and the Musketeers enter one duel with the Red Guards after the other because of their pride.
Back for more.
As we know, the story sits in 17th century France with some situations that take place in England. There are real historic events taking place in this novel, like the siege of La Rochelle and the assassination of Duke Buckingham. Dumas weaves these events into the narrative and attributes them to human motives. We see two nations on the verge of war because of a forbidden love affair between the Queen of France and Duke Buckingham. But of course, the real reason for that war is kept from the people. So we are not given a direct recounting of those historic affairs of state, but it is through the exciting events that the Musketeers face that we get a full picture of these historic events. Of course, in a more entertaining way than reading about him in a history book. The Three Musketeers is a romance that does not hide from reality. We see chivalry and heroic acts, but we are not left to romanticize them for too long. The ending questions these values. Everything that D'Artagnan worked so hard to achieve and fought for doesn't exactly turn out the way he had hoped. The melancholic ending of the book tends to suggest that happy endings are not realistic. Dumas' incorporation of romanticism is only meant to create an interesting approach to history. That's it for this video. Check out the main points I left in the description, and if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video.